Granta Omega is an evil mastermind who has one goal: to help the Sith destroy the Jedi Order. Now Omega has escaped to the planet of Korriban, home of the tombs of the ancient Sith Lords and their terrible secrets. Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker must stop him before his sinister power grows out of control. They are not alone on this mission. Anakin's rival, Ferris, is also searching for Omega, and Anakin sees this as a contest he must win. But as the dark side of the Force becomes stronger and stronger, there is only one guaranteed outcome for any showdown: death.
Hello, younglings, and welcome to Padawan Library. This is the Star Wars Junior Novel Podcast. I am Levi Paratic, and with me is Tim May.
Hello.
And today,
Hi,
folks,
everyone.
we have nothing planned for this opening intro. We are winging it.
Listen. You are going to be on a plane tomorrow. We're recording earlier in the week than we normally do, so we didn't talk that long ago. There's not a lot's happened. Not really any Star Wars news that we feel like talking about. And
that we feel like talking. That you do. Well,
listen, I'm not gonna. We're not talking about the Rise of Skywalker novelization. It's just not happening. Right. I don't care. How about that? I just don't care. I'm moving on with my life, and everybody else should too. Anyway. That's all we need to say about that. But, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Getting ready to pack. Coming back to PA for a few weeks. Gonna see you. We're gonna record some episodes.
A bunch of episodes together in person. So you're gonna get a few in-person episodes in a row. It'll be a lot of fun.
It will be a lot of fun. Maybe some video content.
We'll have to figure out what we're doing there, but I'm excited. But
what's new with you?
I'm on my spring break from college, so that's nice. I'm pretty chill. I watched the last two episodes of the third season of ER this morning. Great stuff, just great stuff. Doug and Carol have their first kiss, like within the context of the series. It's not like. And that's a great moment, classic moment. Listen, ER. If I could be doing an ER podcast right now, I would be.
Well, you got that.
If anyone from one of the big podcast networks is out there, I will do an ER podcast for you.
You got your Planet of the Apes podcast in the works.
That's actually being worked on, actively.
Good.
So that's the Apes podcast. Listen, I love Planet of the Apes. And there's some activity going on in Ape Town lately, so they're developing new movies that are going to apparently be in the same continuity as the recent films. I hope they still jump thousands of years in the future. That's my preferred way of going about that. But yes, listen, what else have I been doing? I was gonna go see a movie. There's a bunch of movies I want to see. I want to see the Ben Affleck basketball movie.
Oh, you love basketball. That's very fitting.
Listen, this last weekend, as a I love basketball. I love LeBron James, and so this weekend was just wonderful for me. He just destroyed the two other best teams in the league over the weekend, silencing so many people. But yes, very exciting game yesterday on ABC against the Clippers. So, but yeah, listen, I live a very uneventful life. I enjoy myself. What else? Yeah, I didn't see any movies this weekend. Yeah, I want to see The Way Back. I want to. I'll probably see the new Pixar movie at some point. Yeah, but I'm just kind of.
Yeah.
I'm just relaxing, I'm excited because we got a couple weeks before we got to record another episode on a book, so I'll have time to read other stuff. It'll be
exactly.
fun. I don't know what I'm going to read right now. I'm debating between a few different things. There's a Will Eisner biography that I took out of the library that I may finally get to. Excited about that. And, yeah. So, I don't know. I was going to say, how are you? Like, we didn't already ask that question. This is fun.
I'll tell you, I finished the third season of The Sopranos. So.
Oh, man. That's a good one. Season 3.
That is a good one. That Jackie Jr. causing problems. Oh
boy.
It was such a shame, though, that, they had to, with his mother dying, the actress dying. That was such a shame,
It's a shame, but how about that CGI Olivia?
Well, that's what made me, there is something wrong with this. It looks like it is, computerized, and I'm so I had to look it up immediately, because I'm did she actually die?
Yeah, she died.
Yeah, so.
It's a bummer, but yeah, no, oh man, that show is incredible. Season 3 has the most depressing stretch of episodes ever created, but for any show, I would say, because there's there's that episode where Paulie from Rocky coughs himself to death.
Oh my god, that is so sad, that episode.
There's the episode.
He's amazing though in that.
Oh my god, he's incredible. But there's the episode where Joey Pants beats that stripper to death. There's the episode where Melfi gets raped and decides not to tell Tony.
Oh my god, there's so many crazy things. Christopher...
Yeah, those all happen in, succession, those 3 episodes. That is, the most depressing stretch ever created for television.
And Christopher finally gets made, too, and it's, nothing what he hoped it was.
my God.
He's so overwhelmed by it. I
love Christopher.
Christopher's great. All the characters on that show are great. So
the show is incredible. It's just incredible. I'm so happy you're watching it. I'm glad you're enjoying it. I'm looking at my Snoke action figure as we speak.
Yeah.
I have this old Snoke Black Label series, or whatever it's called, Black Series thing that I got a couple years ago. We were at You were there.
Yes, I was.
Disney store in Cleveland, and it cost. It was on clearance for $5. It's Snoke in a bathrobe from Last Jedi, and I just love just looking at it. He's sitting next to my robot LeBron. Yeah, I have a robot LeBron figure.
I've seen the robot LeBron.
Yeah, it's classic. He has an arm cannon that shoots basketballs, and he's silver. Yeah, it's wonderful. And it's him in his Cleveland days. So, 2016. Yep. But yeah, no, so yeah, it's wonderful times. I don't know why I'm telling the listeners about this, but
this is quality entertainment right here. We came prepared this week.
Listen, we read the book. We both read the book. We're going to have a good conversation about this book, I think.
Yeah, this is a conversational worthy book. This is the final book in the Jedi Quest
final
series.
book, and next week we're doing a big blowout to talk about the whole series.
And the listeners should know.
That's the thing. with this conversation coming up, I wonder how much I'm going to be willing to say, because whatever issues I might have with this book, and I have a few, they might relate more to macro problems, so maybe I should reserve them for next week.
Okay.
I'm not sure. What do you think? What do you think? Should I do that?
Well, we'll see how the conversation goes today, because let's discuss what we're talking about. Like, what we got to make list. Of course, we're the Legends of List on.
Oh,
this
for
show.
Next week, yeah, we're gonna make some lists. Absolutely.
So we got to rank the books. Should we do top 3 characters, top 5 characters?
Let's do 3 because there's not as many new characters for Jedi Quest as there were with Apprentice.
Should it be only reserved to Jedi Quest, or can we do Apprentice characters? You think, like characters who've rolled over, like Suri?
Yeah, I don't know. Siri might. She's more of a Jedi Quest character, honestly, in my mind at this point.
All right,
but I don't know. You make your own judgment calls on that. I don't think there should be any hard and fast rules here. This isn't a draft, so we don't need to. Don't need to enforce.
I guess we'll do top 3 covers.
Yeah, that's fair. I think we know what our number 1 is. Pretty easy one.
Mm-hmm. That is a pretty easy one. Ooh, I was thinking this because what about top 3 places? Like within the Jude verse, where are some of your favorite places within the Jude verse,
like planets and stuff,
or just anywhere,
or rooms of perhaps thousands of fountains.
That's what I was thinking of.
Interesting. Yeah, no, that's a fair one. And we'll do lists and we'll just have kind of a loose, free flowing conversation. Reading this book really made me want to interview Jude. I don't know why. We'll talk about it, I guess. I was like, man, I have so many questions.
I do too.
When we're getting near the end of the show, we really need to actually try as hard as we can to figure out if we can interview her.
I agree.
Because it's. I want to do it after we've read everything. But.
Yeah. I know what my first question is going to be, and that's going to be, when did Star Wars enter your life? That's my question number 1. Like, where does Star Wars start for you? So,
there's so many less annoying ways to ask that.
Okay, well, we got time. For
like, what was your relationship with Star Wars before you were hired to work on the property?
Yeah.
Same question, less annoying. How did it enter your life? I mean, that's fine. Whatever.
Well, I was not a journalism major, so
I wasn't either. Nobody's saying I'm a journalist. Relax. Nobody's gonna claim that I'm Studs Terkel. There's one for everybody.
Oh, you know what I was thinking about? Star Wars has. I can't think of a single character like this, but has there ever been like a press character, like in Star Wars, like
a journalist?
Yeah,
I'm sure in some books somewhere.
Yeah, but it seems like
I can't. No major character. No.
Yeah, or like in Clone Wars, like some sort of like from HoloNet News, like
nobody in Clone Wars. I can say that, unless there was one in the last 2 episodes I haven't watched.
I was gonna ask
I'm
you.
I'm not caught up right now. Listen, I will catch up. I'm really excited about Siege of Mandalore. Let's get to that, please. I don't need any more clone stuff. And also, I've seen these episodes years ago in unfinished form, so they're less exciting. I'm looking forward to the new stuff. But yeah. So, by the way, interesting. I hope people have been enjoying the show. The last couple weeks, I've had little tiny edits I've had to make that hopefully aren't noticeable at all, because for some reason, my track has always been just split seconds shorter than your track, and it loses its way somewhere in there, and it's been such a pain. I don't know. Maybe it's I don't know what it is. I'll have to fiddle around with it. But
aren't you on a new computer?
Yeah, I bet it's a different
Hertz or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's what it is, and I forgot to change it before we started recording. So whatever.
We'll change it next episode. Next episode, we'll
worry about it. It's fine. I've got 4 days to cut this one, so we're okay. and I don't have anything going on this week.
If
so
also too, we had a comment today on the YouTube. Somebody in way back. Did you see this comment? No. Okay.
I don't look at guys. I'm sorry. I have such anxiety about what the comments might be that even though I'm sure most of them are perfectly fine, and even all of them probably are fine.
Yeah,
we haven't got really any particularly negative feedback from fans. I just worry that at some point we're going to get someone that just hates us, and I don't want it. I want it in my life. So.
Well, this one was a comment on Jedi Apprentice Special Edition number 2, and
no! Isn't that like our worst? Isn't that the one?
I don't know, but the comment is, "Where are the sketches, guys? Where are the sketches? Somebody misses the sketches."
Someone misses the sketches. Maybe we'll try for one. Maybe we'll try to do a live one or something on our.
Oh, that's a good idea. I have an idea for this one, but I just don't have time to do it.
Listen, the problem is the show obviously is worse now. We know that, guys. We know the show has gotten worse. We've started putting less work into it. I know, I can even if you're not saying it, I can tell you're probably all feeling it. And I apologize, but we're both fairly busy, and this is a side thing. But I'm joking. You're going to get 3 killer episodes coming up.
You want to hear my sketch idea for this?
Sure. What is it?
It's a parody of Europe's The Final Countdown.
Oh no!
But
already
Final
embarrassing.
Showdown.
Oh my god! I didn't even think of that. I wasn't even thinking of the title. Oh no! That's yeah. That's about the level. That's the level we work at. So.
Yes, it is.
Listen, we're not sketch writers for a reason. It's fine.
Lorne Michaels isn't going to be knocking on the door anytime soon.
Hey, yeah, but it is. I feel like occasionally I'm like, I've written funny sketches in the past, and I have. Mm-hmm. For this and other projects But, just the idea of writing a sketch every week just sounds terrible. So, obviously, writing for a show where I would have to write multiple sketches or work on multiple sketches for a week just never going to happen.
While we're on the subject of SNL, what did you think of Undercover Boss 2, where they redid? Did you watch the
driver one?
Yeah, I didn't think it was.
It wasn't as good. The driver episode was actually pretty funny, but yeah, that sketch wasn't great. The best SNLs this year. Well, the best one was the John Mulaney one. That one was great, all the way through. And then I'm trying to think. There was another one I thought was pretty good. The show's slightly better this year than it's been the last couple of years, I think. But it's just, it's I don't know. What are you saying?
I watched the RuPaul episode, and I thought it was just terrible.
I didn't see that one.
It was there was this.
Whenever they have a stuntier host, it's usually not great. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's not a shot at RuPaul, but it's it's just not it's not something that usually it's just the more down the middle hosts are usually better. If they're a comedian, writer, sketch performer.
I can see why the Mulaney episode would be fire.
It's incredible. It's great. There's 15 great sketches. His monologue was great. He even kind of made the political sketch at the beginning funny. Because he came out and played Biden, and it was pretty funny, actually. Because everybody expected him to play Buttigieg, and he played Biden, and it was amusing. But but regardless, I thought, those are usually... And also, he's, he's generating material. The hosts that can generate material with the writers are usually the best hosts, and especially when you have a weaker cast, when the cast isn't as strong. And I still think this cast has never really gelled as a crew, and it's time for most of them to move on already. but yeah, it's whatever. It's I will always watch SNL no matter what because I'm a weirdo loser. So hence why I host this podcast with you. But yeah, no, the Mulaney episode, incredible. Did you see the Mulaney special from the end of last year, the Sack Lunch Bunch thing?
No, I need to. Yeah,
so good. Oh my god, that guy. Well, that guy's incredible. Anyway, but anyway, so yeah, we filled 18 minutes.
Yeah,
Look at
good.
that. Look
we're
at
good.
that.
This is a perfect opening.
Everybody
is
staying tuned. Everybody's staying tuned. They're not just skipping 30 seconds, 30 seconds, 30 seconds, 30 seconds.
All right. When we come back, Jedi Quest number 10, the Final Showdown.
Yeah. Welcome back to Padawan Library. I'm Tim May, here as always with Levi Peretic.
Guten Tag.
And as you mentioned before the break, we are discussing today the Final Showdown, which is the final Jedi Quest book, at least theoretically. But it's actually very exciting because we took a long break in the middle of Jedi Quest. That's when we had our season break. And I was feeling when we first came back, like, I don't know, like, these books maybe, like, there's not as much to bite into here, but these last few have really tied it up pretty compellingly, in my view.
I think in the last episode we touched upon, you definitely touched upon the scope of the Judiverse.
Oh, absolutely.
So
yeah.
it's much larger than I feel like we ever expected it to be. I mean, she wrote how many books, but
50
like still,
something, yeah. But like,
yeah, and this has such a more coherent arc just overall, whereas Jedi Quest has Jedi Apprentice has his ups and downs and all the.
We'll talk about
but we love
the
them
macro
all.
Jedi Quest thoughts next week. But this week we're focusing on this last chapter, and we left off last week where there was the assassination attempt, or so they thought, on Sheev, but it was actually on the whole Senate. Basically, they were able to save most of the Senate, but still, I think 19 senators died. It was a big thing, and now the Jedi Council is a lot more committed to going after Granta Omega, who is behind this, along with Jenna Arbor. And so that
they have to issue an apology to Obi-Wan right in front of all the apprentices. They're like, you said from the beginning that this guy was a problem. We didn't believe you. We're sorry.
Yeah. So that's where we're starting this one, and this one kind of jumps right into it. Like this is kind of a relentless book, I would say.
It's an action-packed book, whereas the last book was like a political thriller and it had a lot of layers. This one is like it's like building like up to definitely it's building to a peak, here where it's like each step is one step closer to Omega.
It's one step closer to the edge, and it's about to break. Sorry.
I want to point out I really like. I really like pouty Anakin on the cover.
Yeah,
of
this cover is very silly.
Obi-Wan's posing is very strange.
Whether it's Grant Omega or the Sith Lord or whoever in the foreground, he's shooting between Obi-Wan and Anakin.
Yeah,
he's just shooting at the wall.
At Obi-Wan. And Anakin looks like he fell down and hurt his knee. Like he's like holding on to his knee, like damn.
He looks like Giannis Antetokounmpo last Friday night. Oh, no shots at Giannis. I hope he gets well. These basketball references really play with our audience. I promise.
All right, let's get into the book, because this book has a fun opening. This book opens with Anakin with the one true friend, his one true friend, True Veld. And
can I say something about True?
Yeah.
True is absent for too long.
I agree.
And I think that hurts where their relationship goes in this book in terms of how impactful it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because he starts off, he becomes friends with Anakin, and then he just disappears, and he comes back, and now he's Anakin's best friend.
Yeah, I think, and we're going to talk a lot about this next week probably, but that is the disadvantage of having a shorter, tighter schedule with just 10 books is I don't feel like there were a lot of relationships that weren't well paid off in Jedi Apprentice. Mm-hmm. I think this book has a few that I don't feel totally land the way that they should. And mm-hmm. we'll get into it both later in the episode and next week, but yeah.
Yeah. And with True as well, I would have liked just like maybe a book where it was just Anakin and True.
Yeah. And I think you would have gotten that if it were a longer series, probably.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah. It's just a reason why they're best friends. But anyway, so this book starts off, they're eating candy, they're hanging out in somebody's room, and Anakin is fixing True's lightsaber. And True says here, thanks, I may have built this saber, but you sure keep it humming. And so there's this whole thing where with the flux aperture, and Anakin has to rebalance it and all sorts of other things. But apparently whenever True's got saber problems, Annie is his go-to guy.
This is important for later in the book.
It is important. All right. So they get paged to the council. The council apologizes to Obi-Wan, and they reveal that they have located Granta Omega, and he is on Korriban, the Sith planet.
Wait a minute. Mm-hmm. You're saying the Sith planet is Korriban? The Sith planet is Exegol, my friend. That's my last Rise of Skywalker reference. Ever. No, not ever, but for today.
For today. So we're going to the original
and
Sith planet. And
we all know Korriban, it's the Sith planet. Mm-hmm. And listen, I want to admit something up front before we get into more of the Korriban stuff. I was never the biggest, I don't have a huge knowledge of Old Republic stuff or anything like that. I don't have a lot of knowledge about the Sith pre-Sheev other than the basics. So if we're talking about stuff and this contradicts stuff, we wouldn't know that, or I wouldn't know that, and I'm not speaking for you, but mm-hmm. That's just never been my area of interest with Star Wars. So for some of our listeners that are a little more heavily steeped in the EU overall, there's yeah. Every time I say the EU, I think of the European Union. I was just like, anyway, whatever. I was trying to come up with some hacky EU joke, but forget it.
It still works. You know what I gotta say, though? I'm glad you brought up Exegol, because I had no idea what that planet was called. So
you didn't know what the planet was? They say that's actually one of the things they say in the movie.
And I've seen it twice.
And I only saw it once.
I just haven't... well, the movie is paced at a mile a second,
But yeah, okay. So if we say some silly stuff about Korriban, that's why. We don't know that much. We're not Sith experts. The council is sending a Jedi team of 8 Jedi. So, and, 4 masters, 4 apprentices.
Yes, and I'm sure we can all guess who those are. That's, of course, Obi, Anakin, Suri and Ferris, Rygal, and Truveld, and then it's... I can't remember her name, and then Dara. What's her name? Dara's master.
Dara's the apprentice, and I'm just flipping through, trying to find it.
Yep.
I don't know if it's gonna happen.
This isn't... It's not super important, sadly, since she doesn't really have any sort of...
Dara's important in this book, but not...
Dara's important, yeah. Dara's back. This is is this the first time we've seen her since... I mean, it says she was wounded on Haradan. That's when, Anakin like dives and causes her to get injured.
Yeah.
I can't remember what book.
Isn't that in the games book? Isn't that what they said? Or no, he hasn't seen True, or not seen, but they haven't been on a mission together since that book. So.
Yeah, and that's been 6 years by now.
Yeah, no, a lot of time passes in the series. More than in Jedi Apprentice, I think, actually.
Soara is Dara's master. Yeah. Okay. So, Jedi Team of 8 going to Korriban. Oh, and one other thing, Padawans. We've noticed that, since times are tough, we need more Jedi. We're going to accelerate the Padawan program, and we're going to allow a Padawan to go take the trials. And that Padawan's going to be... Ferris Olin, and so this
sets Anakin off. He's so mad.
Anakin is so angry over this.
He's acting like a little stinker, a real stinker.
He is a certain stinker. He's pissed at Obi-Wan too because he knows that Obi-Wan agrees with this decision that maybe Ferris is ready for the trials,
and that
Anakin still has some learning to do, but Anakin thinks, well, I'm the most powerful, I'm the chosen one. This is not how this goes. I have a little bit here. Anakin felt a surge of power. This was the only part of what he was capable of. Soon they would all know it. He would show them that they had made a serious mistake. He should be the first apprentice to move up to Jedi Knight. He knew it, and soon everyone else would know too. He would make them know it.
This whole book is really about Anakin's first real brush with the dark side. We've seen a little bit of it earlier, but this is where the first time whether he knows it or not, he embraces that part of himself. Mm-hmm. And so that's what makes this one interesting. So
there's his whole drive here is he thinks if he captures Omega, if he's the one to take down Omega, then he wins. It's a competition now. Now that Ferris is going to be, and after this mission that Ferris is going to do the trials. But if he can take down Omega, then maybe it'll be him, and that's why it's all the secret competition now, and it's all internalized. He's internalized all of this competition. So
anyway, they get there pretty quickly. They have to. There's something in space that happens. Nothing important, but they get there. They land, and they're going to meet a guy who has helped the Jedi in the past, who is stationed there on Korriban. I believe his name is Thacker. Am I right about this?
Thacker, yeah.
So, yeah.
There's this whole thing where, Yoda says goodbye to them, and the way he says goodbye to them, he you can tell that Yoda's looking at them he may never see some of them again. So the stakes are high, people. The stakes are real high.
This book does. I'll say that I think some of the more lore stuff, the stuff about Korriban, and we can get into it a little bit, is a little bit hastily introduced in this book. And it's kind of... And again, like I mentioned with True earlier, some of the character relationships and arcs are kind of shortcutted a little bit. But the one thing this book does really have, over a lot of the Jude books, honestly... period, is just it has scale. It feels very significant all the way through. It has scale and pathos.
So, with this planet, should I get into the planet there?
Yeah.
About the setup of the planet? So Korriban, there's a landing platform, very hastily set up idea of a city, plastoid buildings that are, of course, crumbling kind of thing.
How does plastoid crumble is what I want to know. If plastoid is like plastic, then it's there forever. That's the problem with plastic, or one of
It
one of
doesn't
the many
biodegrade,
problems with
right.
plastic. But yeah, so I assume it's not plastic; it's different. But it just you would assume it's It's just the Star Wars Galaxy's version of plastic, plastoid.
Right, it's plastoid. Yeah, I mean that's what I assume a stormtrooper armor is made out of is plastoid.
Yeah. But
So
maybe it's just plexiglass.
Maybe, and well, of course, didn't it mention that like they have acid rain, or was that another book? That I
think
swear there was
you're
a mention that like Korriban maybe had acid rain, so maybe it's the acid that's causing the buildings to crumble.
Perhaps.
So also, so there's 3 types of people who live on Korriban: the workers, the people who have been stranded on Korriban, and the ones who want to live there, and these are the most dangerous. And when I have this written in my notes thinking, well, okay, we're going to have some issues with these characters, the guys who want to be there. Not so
No,
much.
It's kind of just dressing.
There's also...
Like, this is the thing, like, the setting is very interesting. Korriban is very interesting, and I'm assuming there's plenty of other resources if we were interested in reading stuff that takes place on Korriban, we could find it. But this book's not really about Korriban. If there was a Sith temple on another planet, everything could have happened. It's the same.
Exegol? Maybe? Exegol?
No.
Huh? And then
I'm surprised
there's
you
this
didn't know
whole...
the name of the planet was Exegol.
I've seen the movie twice.
Well, especially because
too.
I feel like it's been said a million times just in all the nonsense about the novelization and all that stuff. But whatever. It's fine.
There's also the Commerce Guild.
Commerce
is trying
it's the
Commerce
Guild. You
Okay.
mispronounced it last week too, and I didn't catch it until I was editing, and I was like, "Oh, I feel bad that I didn't correct you."
Okay.
But now I'm doing it on the air. That's
fine.
what a good guy does. A good friend.
Yeah.
Embarrasses
Well,
his
if you
friend
remember-
on the air.
If you remember, they were the ones who set up the Galactic Games, and they were the ones who corrupted Bog into doing all sorts of his boggy things and made Bog such a bad dude.
Bog Davinian.
Is
Bog
they're trying to
Davinian the
attract
best
business.
name like ever? Like, it's a great name. Bog Davinian. It's incredible. Incredible name.
Okay. I'm gonna put that on my list of things for the wrap up episode. Best name. So we'll have to rack my brain there about that. So all right, and but the guild there, they have an army, a droid army, kind of patrolling the place, and Grant Omega's there, and the guild is a fan of Grant, so Grant probably has an army at his disposal.
You know, I'm not a fan of Grant, but I am a fan of U.S. Grant. One of the more underrated American presidents. And I believe the 18th president of these United States got that one right the first time this week.
So we got our president talking for the day.
Hey, he did a lot of good... Listen, the Reconstruction was going relatively well under Grant. Not all because of him, but, he oversaw a lot of that. He prosecuted terrorist organizations like the Klan more aggressively than any president really ever, including in the modern era. And he, was the first president to ever acknowledge the atrocities the government committed against Native Americans. So he deserves more props. Some of his cabinet definitely very corrupt, though. Understandable. And yes, he was an alcoholic, but let's have some compassion. He was an alcoholic. It's
Wasn't he the president depicted in Wild Wild West?
He might have been. I haven't seen that movie in 20 years.
Okay.
I would have gone with Rutherford B. Hayes if I were making that movie.
I think I have actually recently seen that movie. It must have been on TV. It was not good. It was very bad.
I didn't like it when I was 9, so I can't imagine I like it now. So,
Wicked Wow Wow.
The song's incredible.
The song's the best part. Let's talk about, speaking of songs, about I heard somebody talking recently about how in Aladdin, they made Will Smith do Friend Like Me like Robin Williams instead of like Will Smith, and then in the credits they have like the Will Smithified version.
No. Did you see the movie?
Yeah, I saw the movie.
I mean, he raps "Friend Like Me." What are you talking about? He doesn't do it like Robin Williams.
There's two versions of "Friend Like Me," though.
The version in the movie, he raps the lyrics. It's the same lyrics as the original version, but they're rapped. It's not sung. It's like Run DMC's version of "Walk This Way." They're just rapping the lyrics from the song. But the song at the end of the movie is an original Will Smith song with DJ Khaled, of course. As soon as I heard DJ Khaled scream...
I'm still thinking of sitting in the... That's what I was just laughing about.
DJ Khaled! I laughed so hard.
Another one.
Oh, boy. Listen, we live in a stupid universe. Okay.
We do. Okay, so in this chapter, in chapter 5, I guess we're on, Anakin, this is where Anakin vows to himself that he's going to beat Ferris in a silent game. However, a page later, he gets in an argument with Ferris and fails miserably.
So silent.
Okay, so this is on page 28, and, so I guess this is Ferris here starting at, of course we all want to capture Omega. Oh wait, that's True actually. So
that is true.
Who wants to... All right, I'll be True.
Okay, you be True. I'll be Ferris.
Okay. Oh, what should I do for True? Of course we all want to capture Omega, True added. His eyes told Anakin to back off. But Ferris wants to be the one to do it, I bet, Anakin said. Once you start impressing the Jedi Council, you have to keep doing it.
It doesn't matter who does it, Ferris said. It matters that it's done.
Spoken like a true Jedi Knight, Anakin said.
Ferris's neck flushed red. Just what are you trying to say?
Anakin, Dara murmured warningly. Anakin took a step closer to Ferris. He couldn't help himself. Despite his intentions, the words spilled out in a torrent. That you'll do whatever you can to succeed on this mission, not because you want to catch Omega, you want to be a knight. Anakin! True exclaimed. But Ferris and Anakin were past listening to their fellow Padawans. They were careful to pitch their voices low, however, to avoid attracting the attention of their masters.
Ferris's dark eyes flashed with anger. That's a serious charge, and an untrue one.
I've got news for you, Anakin said. You won't be the one to find Omega. I will. I bet on it. The remark seemed to burst out of him without his directing it. Dara sucked in breath through her teeth. True shook his head.
Ferris turned away. I'm not going to bet on a mission.
Because you have too much writing on it? If you lose, you might lose the Council's favor, Anakin said. No wonder you won't take me up on it. Anakin had gotten to Ferris at last. He could see it. Suddenly Ferris spun around and came within a centimeters of Anakin.
Okay, sure. I'll take the bet, he said. Whatever you say, Anakin. I wouldn't want to stand in the way of you and your ego.
Ego? You're the one who spends all his time showing off. But if Anakin was heat, Ferris was ice. He buckled his utility belt.
Someone has to teach you that you are not as powerful as you think you are.
Anakin saw the masters looking over. He bent over and pretended to tighten the same strap so that Obi-Wan could not read his face. He had to control himself. He had gone farther than he meant to. But he didn't care. Now it was out in the open.
Crush. Anakin just crushing Ferris. I'm not sure why I'm doing Ferris like Ed Wynn. Like a terrible Ed Wynn impression, but...
You were British the last time you read Ferris.
I don't remember. So. I knew it was a silly voice. I think I'm going to stick with the Ed Wynn thing going forward for Last of the Jedi. So, when he's the main character. Anyway, Yeah, this scene. This is the stuff where the book's really, where this book's really interesting. Is that there's a lot of Anakin just being openly hostile in a way that we have not seen in any previous stories to this in the timeline. Mm-hmm. This is him almost, honestly, I feel like this is him as close as he gets to the dark side until Revenge of the Sith, in the timeline that we're, like, working with here, anyway.
Mm-hmm. Well, what about the Tusken Raiders?
That, to me, is close, but he's immediately has Padme there to kind of bring him back from the brink. I think it's a little bit... he has things, but, like, he's a little more stranded in this book because he doesn't want to talk to Obi-Wan about this. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So
yes, and he doesn't. Obi-Wan has no idea what's going on during this book.
Yeah. So I thought that was really interesting. Anyway, so yeah, that's where are they at that point?
There's this whole thing with Thacker. Thacker basically gives them no information other than, I don't know, don't they have to go to some temple?
Well, yes, he lets them know about, what's her name?
The black market. So, because Jenna Zan Arbor likes expensive things, so they want to know where to get expensive things on Korriban. And they are led to this, a Reuben, there's no R in there, Auben, Auben.
Auburn?
And
I would say Auburn.
That's a good.
Yeah.
Auburn.
Like Auburn,
and,
but without an R.
Catherine Auburn. So that was a really horrible joke.
Catherine.
Oh wait, no. I was thinking Hepburn, and that's nothing.
That
like
really
that.
just doesn't track. I'm afraid.
No, it doesn't.
You're thinking of Audrey Hepburn, maybe the Auburn Audrey.
Maybe. That's it. Auburn Hepburn. There's the joke.
By the way, guys, sidelining again. I got a Criterion Channel. I decided to do it. Take the plunge. I canceled something else, and I have that now. Very cool stuff. I have option paralysis. I'm just like, I want to watch this and this and this, and there's so much stuff to watch. This is the problem with all this stuff. I
know,
but
there's too much good
stuff. There's a lot that I want to watch, so I'll let you know if I watch anything on Criterion Channel by next week. Maybe I will.
Okay.
I'm still in the trial period, so I haven't wasted money yet on it, but.
Well, you know what I gotta say? You turned me on to, we've never talked about this, the TCM app.
Oh, incredible.
The TCM app is spectacular. Yeah. And the fact that you have the option for the host intro, and so sometimes you'll get the host intro, and then when you play it, you'll get another host intro. You get that back-to-back host intro.
Yeah, because there might be a more recent host intro, but maybe the Robert Osborne one's like attached like to the print they have or something from like 20 years ago. R.I.P. to Robert Osborne.
So good.
Forever.
You know who I hate, though? Do you have any feelings on Eddie Muller of Noir Alley?
Oh, I've only seen him a couple times, and it's been a few years, but I saw you made some comment about him on Letterboxd.
Okay. Yeah. I watched this movie called The Window, where basically the idea is a small child witnesses a murder, but he's like a boy who cried wolf character, so like his parents, nobody will believe him that he saw this murder.
Sure.
And of course it's the people who live above him in the apartment building. But Mueller, in his host intro, mentioned the fact that even though it's supposed to be the hottest summer on record, they filmed it in New York in the winter, and there's a couple scenes where you can see the actors' breaths.
Okay.
And he said this in the intro, so of course I'm watching the movie, I see the breath, and it's like, oh, that's because they're cold. Completely took me out of the movie. Had he saved that to the end, the outro.
That should have been...
Yeah, that's an outro bit.
I agree.
Screw you, Mueller.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my rant about Eddie Mueller of TCM, the lamest of the TCM hosts.
Yeah, I don't know. I like most of the TCM hosts. They're
I do too.
I love Ben Mankiewicz. He's always a fun presence. You know what's hilarious is you go into those TCM screening series at the theater and just hearing his voice booming out of the theater speakers is very funny to me. I just laugh when I see him. I'm like, that's fucking Mankiewicz right there.
I love Mankiewicz, so all right. Anyway, where were we in this book before we got sidetracked with more movie talk, more unrelated Star Wars talk?
We like movies. It's true. We used to
love movies.
Yeah.
I love watching movies. No. I love making movies.
I wanted to... Yeah. I love movies. Gosh, I love movies. I love watching them, and I love making them. That's a Keanu Reeves thing from the last year.
I wish we had the video of this FaceTime right now, because your hair is so Keanu right now.
I need to get a cut.
I could see you channeling Keanu in your hair while you said that.
I need to get a cut. It's ridiculous.
No, well, go get a haircut.
Maybe I'll do that tomorrow. Anyway,
you can get something trendy, something short, like the kids are wearing these days.
I'll get my normal haircut.
A fade, is that what they call it?
Fade? Yeah. A bunch of white kids getting fades. That's always cool. Anyway, so regardless,
okay, Aubin Hepburn.
Yeah, Aubin.
She's
like a kind of petty crook thief type person, right? Something like that.
Yeah. And
she lives in a Sith palace, Sith temple.
Yes, because they go to this black market. They send Ferris and Anakin because they don't want to be attracted. That it's obvious that they're Jedi.
They're posing as kids who are looking for their parents, i.e., Grant Omega and Gena's Ann Arbor.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and the market gets attacked by the droid army, so Aubin leads them to the Sith temple where she camps out, where she's got her house.
And it's abandoned, remember, for generations, so, she doesn't really know what the history is, but she knows that everybody's scared to go there, so that's, a safe place for her to stay, basically.
Right, and she says that the army won't follow them there, and of course the army follows them there. And I think this is when it's revealed that they're Jedi. The Masters defeat the army, but they all have the same feeling in this temple that there's a Sith in the building. They're hearing voices, they're getting the irks, they're getting the chills, but they know that there is a living Force presence there. There is a Sith in the building.
The building.
The building.
The Sith is in the building.
The building.
The building.
Sith, the building.
The building.
Who could the Sith be? I only know of 2 Sith in this timeline.
I don't know. We actually don't know who it is.
No, we don't. They don't reveal it.
Well. Yeah. What were you saying?
I guess we'll just. We only find out that the Sith Lord shoots lightning. At first, to me, it doesn't seem like it would. Yes, so
it could be Dooku or Sheev. So
yes,
who knows?
It could be either one. Let's see. They get attacked again by some more droids. Anakin kills 40 droids.
By the way, the rest of the Jedi are kind of following them from afar. And
yes,
so.
Yes. And and Anakin thinks he sees Omega, and he abandons the other Padawans and goes after him. And during this battle with the droids, True drops his lightsaber and it gets crushed by a droid. And it's later revealed that when the Masters enter, that these droids are super battle droids. They've been supposedly outlawed, but somebody remarks that these are super battle droids. So once the Masters get there, Obi-Wan rushes to find Anakin, and he knows that he is close to the Sith Lord. He can feel the Sith Lord is near. And Anakin is thrown against a wall, and then they're in this abandoned ship, depot, landing platform, and the Sith Lord lifts up a bunch of the ships and throws them at Anakin and Obi-Wan. The Sith escapes. Anakin and Obi-Wan are fine, and they regroup. So
yeah, it's basically the rest of the book is, and I'm not just wrapping it up or anything. I'm just saying, from this point on, the book is basically the whole Jedi team is basically together, and they're chasing after. They're chasing after Grant Omega, and what happens to Aubin? I can't remember.
I don't remember any. I can't remember either. Oh, she died.
Oh, yeah, she did die.
They
I forgot.
They find her on the platform of the Sith ship, and they decide to leave her there to make sure the Sith Lord doesn't know that they were there, something of that nature. But yeah, she dies, and then they go back to their ship because they imagine that the Genazan Arbor and Grant Omega are in the Valley of the Sith. Is that what it was called?
Yeah, yes, basically. Something like the Valleys of the Sith, the Fallen Valleys of the Sith.
Mm-hmm. And then they get a hologram from when they're on the Sith ship, they find a hologram from Omega where he's basically bowing at the feet of the Sith Lord, and Anakin calls him a toting dung creeper.
Dung creeper, yes, toting dung creeper. I texted this to you while I was reading earlier. I don't know if you got that. I just texted the phrase toting dung creeper.
It made me giggle.
What a silly name.
And so, okay. Now, as I mentioned, True's lightsaber gets damaged, and Anakin kind of rounds the corner. He gets back after they're searching for clues, and what does he see? Ferris is helping True fix his lightsaber.
How dare he? That's Anakin's job.
Mm-hmm. So we have on page 83, I'm going to start reading here, if you want to help me out here. Anakin looked for True. He had disappeared, and so had Ferris. Feeling uneasy, Anakin headed off to see what they were up to. Would Ferris try to steal his best friend? He might fill True's mind with whatever version of why Anakin had left to fight the droids alone. He would twist the facts and make Anakin look bad. True and Ferris were sitting in one of the service bays, talking quietly. Ferris was busy working on True's lightsaber. Anakin paused in the shadows. Were they discussing him? He thought he heard his name. He concentrated fiercely.
I noticed it, Ferris told True. That droid must have pulverized your power circuit.
It slips back into half power without warning, True said in a worried voice. True's lightsaber must have been damaged in the battle, but why hadn't True told Rai-Gal? An apprentice was obliged to tell his or her master if a lightsaber was damaged. As if True had overheard Anakin's question, he said, I know I should have told Rai-Gal, but he's so correct. He might leave me out of battle situations, or even send me back to the temple.
If your lightsaber is permanently damaged, Rai-Gal would be right to do so, Ferris said.
Typical, Anakin thought. Ferris always had to inform you of the rules he knew by heart already.
After all, Ferris continued, you don't want to meet a Sith without a lightsaber.
No kidding, True said. This mission is crucial. That's why I can't be sent back. I thought if I could fix it without having to tell Rai-Gal... True wound one flexible arm around his back to hug the opposite elbow, a gesture that Anakin knew well. It was something True did when he was especially nervous. Look, I know I wouldn't be the first or second candidate to enter the accelerated program. You and Anakin will be first. Maybe Dara will be third. But I don't want to be left behind.
Ferris frowned. True, your advancement is not the reason we're here.
That's not what I mean, True said, upset. I want to stand with my fellow Jedi because we all know that darkness is growing. We need every Jedi. I want to be there too.
We all do, Ferris said. He bent over the lightsaber, fine-tuning it. Anakin couldn't see what he was doing, but he was itching to get his own hands on the lightsaber. He was sure he was a better technician than Ferris. All right, I fixed it. Ferris put the handle back together and handed the lightsaber back to True. You shouldn't have any more problems. Your power cell is boosted.
Anakin started to step forward. If Ferris had worked on the power cell, then that meant True needed to check the flux aperture again. Anakin had tweaked it before, but it might need an adjustment to compensate for the power boost. Anyway, it would be wise to double check. Anakin had better tell him, but he stopped when he heard his name.
"Why didn't you ask Anakin to fix it?" Ferris asked. "He's better at this than I am."
"He was busy with Obi-Wan," True murmured. Anakin realized that True had evaded the question. He could have asked him for help. He frowned as he watched the two Padawans, their heads close together. True was drifting away from him. He could feel it.
Ferris stood. "I don't see any reason to tell Rygal, now that it's fixed. We better get back."
Angrily, Anakin retreated back into the shadows, then turned and headed for the others. He felt betrayed. True had chosen Ferris to confide in. He was True's best friend. He should have been the one to help him. Obviously, True was holding a grudge against him for not coming to his aid.
Oh, man. Anakin.
Anakin, I know.
This is...
What a troubled young man.
Yeah. Tell me about it. I don't know. There's not much to say. This is an absolutely insane view of this situation from Anakin. Don't you think? Like, this is like one of the more deranged things I've read. Just like, oh man, my friend's lightsaber got broken and he went to the nearest person who might know how to fix it, to fix it temporarily. How dare he not look for me?
And he accuses True of evading the question when all True said was, like, he was with Obi-Wan. Like, Anakin was with Obi-Wan. Plenty good reason, but Anakin, he's got these ideas in his head. The whole fear that Ferris is going to steal True away from him, it's this fear that's going to drive True away, Anakin.
Yeah, yes, it is. It's going to drive this character we all know and love
I
away.
know. Well, but Anakin, he was chosen by fate, destined for conflict.
Oh, so true. So true.
Saeed.
Might as well call him Saeed Veld. That's how true he is.
So they get back into their ship, and Anakin notices that something is wrong. An indicator light flashes the wrong color, and he's just like, "Everyone, get out now!" They run out of the ship, and boom, the ship explodes. It was sabotaged by Omega, obviously. So they contact Thacker. Thacker's like, "Okay, I'll loan you my company speeder."
They immediately, it's immediately revealed that he betrayed them. Like, it's not even worth going into the details. This just happens immediately. He's just like, "I'm sorry," and then it's like they get pulled over, basically, and they're like, "This is a stolen car," and they're like, "We borrowed it from the owner, Thacker," and they're like, "That's the guy that reported stolen," and they're like, "They must have gotten a Thacker." That is, I'm not even exaggerating. That is that happens within
it's exactly
that's in like one paragraph of action.
So there's this whole scene where they're being chased. They have to take out these other speeders. The ship is like, and this is where Anakin is like, "I have to save everybody here." Anakin's determined. The ship, like, he hands the ship's controls over to Rygal, and he's like, Anakin's got a fusion cutter, and he's stripping the fins off of the thing while the speeder is moving to make it go faster. They get out of that, and they reach the entrance of the, what is it, the Valley of the Sith? What do they call this place?
I keep forgetting, and I keep missing it when I'm flipping through.
The Valley of the Dark Lords.
Valley of the Dark Lords. That's hard. It's like that place. It's like that arena where Sheev's clone, I guess, is at in Rise of Skywalker. That's what I pictured when I read Valley of the Dark Lords.
You mean one of his multiple clones?
Yeah, including Rey's dad or whatever.
Which does not make Rey his granddaughter, technically, then. That makes Rey his daughter.
Yeah, well,
if Rey's father is technically a clone of Sheev,
at least by the logic of that movie, which is that Sheev is alive, and that's not just a clone.
Right.
You know what I mean? Whatever. It's all very stupid. By the way, her dad in the movie looks nothing like Ian. And Disney, with their de-aging, easily could have made it look like Ian.
Mm-hmm. It's because J.J. Abrams didn't give a fuck. Like, J.J. Abrams didn't even care to answer this questions. The EU will do it. And that's where it stands. So the EU had to explain. The EU had to do the heavy lifting here.
Listen,
and even then, it's still flawed.
I said I don't want to talk about this. And I got myself into it. It's my own fault.
You brought it
up. Let's move on.
All right, let's talk about the Takadas.
Oh yeah, well they're beasties.
They're beasties. We fight the beasties.
They defeat the beasties. Moving on. We don't need to talk about every blow of the beastie battle. All these beasties. Damn it! These beasties. Listen, this is what I have to say to all Star Wars authors. I get that we all love Star Wars creatures. But you know what's not interesting to read about for a whole chapter? A beastie battle. Almost never. It's never fun. Beasties, keep them to a minimum. And if they're going to make them characters, if you're going to have beasties, you know? Like you think about the big beastie moments in the original trilogy. You get the Dianaga in the trash compactor. That's a great character scene. And it's not like they're fighting the Dianaga the whole time. You know, there's a lot of other stuff happening. You got the Wampa. Great moment. Luke is trapped. Oh, and then the Rancor, basically. Those are the big beastie moments. And if you want to count the asteroid, I guess, in Empire. But listen. Those are the big beastie moments. And they're all... Well, also, it works better in movies. You can make it work in prose, obviously, but usually not on the level that Star Wars writers are working. This is the problem. It's just very workmanlike prose, and you're like, I don't care about this beastie. Don't describe the beastie for 3 pages. This is not a huge problem for Jude. I'm not talking shit on Jude here. But you know who I'll call out? Alan Dean Foster, who is the first writer of any Star Wars EU stuff. Obviously, he wrote the novelization, and he wrote Splinter of the Mind's Eye. But I remember around when Force Awakens came out, he also wrote the Force Awakens novelization. But around when that movie came out, there was a short story, a big short story that was advertised in Star Wars Insider, a new short story by Alan Dean Foster, and it was just beastie bullshit for like 6 magazine pages. And I'm like, you know what? I don't need this beastie nonsense. So no more beasties. I'm putting a ban on beasties. If I read the High Republic better have a minimum number of beasties. Minimal, I should say, number of beasties. No beasties. I'm telling that to the big High Republic Council or whatever they're calling themselves. We all know they listen. We know Claudia Gray is listening, and we don't want beasties anymore. No beasties. If they're going to be beasties, make them real characters. They could be alien races. I'm not anti-alien character person, but I don't want beastie battles.
Especially because it's such a problem in this book too, and I mean it's not a problem. It's just it's filler because we've already had 2 major. This is the problem.
It's not a huge issue with this book, and I'll talk about my feelings in general in a little bit, but because we're nearing the end here. But you think about often they're just used as placeholder. Like we need an action sequence. So what do? Let's throw random creatures that the characters have no emotional investment in protecting or whatever. There's no conflict here other than get rid of these beasties. And that is not interesting. Like, that's why I brought up the ones in the trilogy. There's always a reason for each of those scenes. Those scenes don't just serve to highlight the beasties. They do that very well, and it's fun to look at the beasties. I'm like, oh, what a wonderful creature. I love the Rancor. What a wonderful creature. Iconic creature. Props to Phil. Is that Phil Tippett? I don't remember.
I would think that has to be Phil Tippett.
Props to Phil Tippett. But you know what I mean? Like, that scene serves other functions. Luke, it's first of all, you're seeing Luke's compassion in that scene. You're seeing, but also his kind of like his flirtation with the dark side. It's all there in that scene. It's important for the character. These scenes in lots of Star Wars books are often just there. It's like, here's some fodder for the characters to kill off in a quick chapter. It'll fill space in the book.
I'm also just realizing, too, that Luke is the one to face all the beasties.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I get... Luke, Han, and Leia are all kind of in it together against the Dianoga, I guess.
Yeah, but Luke gets it the worst out of...
Oh, yeah, I mean, he gets choked, man.
Yeah, he gets choked.
Man.
Blasted!
Oh.
Anywhere!
Oh, the best. That's still the best one.
I agree. It's awesome. That's such a good scene. Yeah. That movie has it goes so many different places.
It's just a perfect experience. No shots at the final showdown. Let's get back to that, though.
All right, so they enter the tombs in the Valley of the Dark Lords, and immediately they're faced with visions. They're faced with voices.
Obi-Wan
Anakin's
experiences a vision. Well, actually, let's start with Anakin. He sees his mother.
Yes. Anakin saw one of the shrouds rise. Layers of gray, shredding rags fell away. He gasped in shock. It was his mother, Shmi. "Annie!" she called. "Annie!" "Mother!" The word was wrenched out of his belly. How much he had longed to say that word again, to see her again. It was the Jedi who kept him from her, the Jedi who had taken him away. "Anakin!" Obi-Wan's voice was sharp. "It's a vision! Nothing more!" Anakin swallowed. The shroud was back in the crypt. He gazed at the others, embarrassed. Ferris looked at him with pity. Pity! His hatred for Ferris flooded him again. He had embarrassed himself in front of Ferris.
Oh my god. Listen, Anakin. Relax. You're being surrounded by dark magic, cloning, whatever. But you know what I
mean? Dark science, cloning. Last reference to Rise of Skywalker.
We're just going to say that every episode, I think. But anyway, just relax. And then the other big thing, and this might happen a little bit later, but Obi-Wan also has a vision of Qui-Gon's death again. And Qui-Gon, as he's dying, says it's Obi-Wan's faults and all this stuff. So the intensity of the dark force, the dark side, is quite heavy. It's quite heavy in the air. So.
Yeah, it's like whenever Sheev had all the power of the thousands of Sith in him, kind of thing. You know, that's that level of intensity here on Korriban.
Listen, we might as well just call it Exegol. That's what they should do when Disney reprints these books. They should just go in and just find and replace Korriban for Exegol. That's what everyone wants, right?
Yeah, well, that would be a problem because then they would know how to get to Exegol. Well, the Jedi would know.
Of course, it doesn't make sense. I'm joking.
Yes, I also hate the whole stupid the Wayfinder thing. I hate the dagger. There's so much I don't like about Rise of Skywalker. I find that dagger so stupid, and how it lines up with the wreckage of the second Death Star.
Yeah, from where they just happen to be looking at it. They could be looking at it from so many different places. It's not a specific place. It's not like in Raiders where they have to put the staff. It has to be the right size and at the right time of day. That's worked out. If you want to do that kind of thing, then they need to be. Then Rey should have to be standing in a specific spot. That should have been part of the thing. But no, it's just that she just lands and she's just it lines right up. It's ridiculous. Whatever.
Okay. So and then they find they battle some more droids in another trap. There's these force nets that come down that can kind of trap them. So we got to watch out for the force nets. And then Granta Omega and Genazan Arbor reveal themselves and. They have an argument here, Tim. I found this argument very silly.
Genazan Arbor's just I want to meet the Sith Lord because I want what he promised us, which is cash, baby. And
cash, power, and he also promised to destroy the Jedi too.
Get them out of her hair. But like Granta actually wants to be a Sith Lord. And remember, Granta is Xanatos' son. I don't know if we haven't reminded the audience of that in a couple weeks, probably, but that's a pretty big part of this, also. Yes.
And there's this part here where she's yelling at him for, like, trying to, like, talk to the Jedi. And she's just like, so she tells him to get back here, you fool. Why must you always talk to him? And he says, because I'm enjoying myself, Omega said. His handsome face creased with a wide smile. He appeared utterly at home in the terrible tomb. I have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 Jedi. All sent to capture little old me.
Little old me. Ain't I a stinker?
Aren't you forgetting that I'm here too, Zan Arbor snapped. Typical. I was a Jedi enemy before you were born, Granta. My father was their enemy before me. And this is that's where they have their argument. He's like trying to like, I am the true enemy of the Jedi. So that's silly. And where do we go from there? Oh, they get attacked by zombies.
I kind of like this though, just because it was like kind of evocative. I mean, it's the same problem as the beasties, but it's a little bit, it's at least more like direct because you know what zombies are, so it's not like endlessly explaining like what kind of beastie is this, So, so it goes pretty quickly. They rip through a lot of zombies pretty quick. But yeah.
Yes, and and then the sad thing happens.
Yeah, big.
After this, the big sad thing happens. Dara gets shot.
Yeah, because True's lightsaber shorts out, and he's not able to deflect a blaster bolt, and she gets shot, and her fate's left up in the air for a little bit here, but she does die ultimately. So during this moment, though, what's going on with Anakin? I'm trying to remember what he's doing near the end.
He's fighting off the zombies, and it's Omega who kills Dara, right? He's the one who shoots her. He's got this blaster.
And then Obi-Wan. And I actually want to read Omega's last scene when we get there.
Okay.
But yeah, no.
Obi-Wan is the one to pursue Omega. Like, Anakin had this whole charge in him to do this. And so Obi-Wan goes after Omega, and Anakin, in his rage to get Omega, ends up getting trapped in one of these force nets, and that prevents him from actually doing it.
But he does witness Dara getting shot, sees... and also sees Ferris and True exchange kind of a look that's like, oh crap, we should have told our masters about our busted lightsaber. So that's a big part of it also. And but Anakin's like, I can't think about this right now. Once he gets out of the net, he chases after Obi-Wan. So because he wants to just bury that, of course, as is his wont.
So I think on page 134, 135 is where we have the final moments between Omega and Obi-Wan.
Yeah, that's... oh my god, there's such a hard moment here at the end that we have to talk about and we have to read. So, let's see. Let's start with... let's start with a gathering roar on page 134.
Okay.
A gathering roar came from behind him. Omega threw himself forward, a blaster firing in his hand, his teeth bared. You killed my father! You will not win! Obi-Wan.
Obi-Wan.
Go ahead.
Oh, Obi-Wan activated his lightsaber as he turned. The moment he had not wanted to come had arrived. No matter how much he wished to stop Omega, how much he never wished to kill him, he remembered how Xanatos' death haunted Qui-Gon. He did not want the same fate, but fate had taken away his choices. His lightsaber rose as if in slow motion, yet he moved faster than an eye blink. It came down and cleaved into Omega. He fell to his knees. Instead of retreating, Obi-Wan walked forward. He did not want to see Omega die alone, but no one should have to die alone. Omega looked up into his face. His lips were drawn back over his teeth in a gruesome smile. A spasm of something crossed his features. What was it? Satisfaction? Obi-Wan realized. What did it mean?
Do you think you won? You didn't, Omega said. Every word was an effort. I know who he is. He toppled over, curling up like a child. You will wish you did. Still smiling, still holding his hatred and rage, Omega let go of his life at last and collapsed into the dust. Something rushed out as if a great power had removed its protection from Omega. The visions of the Sith Lords faded. The dark side of the Force retreated. The Sith would not be found. Obi-Wan knew he had withdrawn both his presence and his protection. Obi-Wan tucked his lightsaber back into his belt.
Let's see Dara, he said.
That is so hard what Grant Omega said, where he's just like, I know who he is. I had chills just running up and down my body.
You wish you will.
Oh my god. That is... Ooh, every time it's referenced that someone knows who Sheev is in these last two books, it has been so just spine-tingling.
I know, it's so great. And so Omega accomplished what he wanted to do. Omega's whole plan was he wanted to draw the Sith Lord out, and he succeeded in that. So, I mean, I'm sure if Sheev didn't know about him before the whole last book, that whole thing at the Senate was very well played. He got a big kick out of that. So
yeah, basically Obi-Wan and Anakin, after that, they go and check on Dara, and they realize Dara has died. This is a big blow, obviously. And so when everybody returns to the temple, Grant Omega's gone. Jenna Zan Arbor has escaped.
I wonder if we'll see her again.
They haven't. Yeah, maybe. We'll see. They haven't discovered the identity of the Sith Lord. So some elements of the mission were successful, but obviously everyone is devastated by the death of Dara. And basically, we jump ahead a little bit at the Jedi Temple to a moment when the Council is going to talk to a bunch of people, to have meetings with a bunch of people. They meet with Obi-Wan, and what happens there? I'm trying to remember.
I can't remember what happened with Obi-Wan.
Nothing serious, really. Basically, they kind of review it, and they're all...
Oh, well, they cancel their plans to accelerate...
Yeah, that's the big thing.
Right.
And so... and then after Obi-Wan, right away, Ferris is set to meet with them. And there's actually a pretty good scene with Ferris and Obi-Wan. There's a big scene we have to get to near the end. But
yes.
Yeah. Right here at the end of chapter 22, Obi-Wan says, "They are ready for you," Obi-Wan told him. Ferris turned a face to him full of such misery and heartbreak that Obi-Wan was moved. "You are not here to be punished, least of all by yourself," Obi-Wan told him. "I must go on living," Ferris responded. "That is my punishment." So, sorry about the voice.
Such a dramatic boy that Ferris is.
But, also fair. That is...
It is fair.
And what we're about to get into with Anakin's reaction to all of this and what's about to happen, as much as Anakin resents Ferris, Ferris never did feel superior to Anakin. Would you agree?
Yeah, and Ferris only cared about Anakin. Like, he only worried about Anakin,
And, that can be obviously frustrating for a lot of young people. They feel suffocated by that kind of thing, but and especially someone your own age, you feel like, who are they to be this way with me? But clearly he was just more ready for a lot of the challenges Jedi face, but I don't think he viewed himself as superior. He was a good Jedi in that way. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. He's perfect Jedi. I mean, he was ready for the trials, if anything, after all this. And all of this, what's sad about all of this is Anakin's rage towards Ferris is the whole, I mean, you could kind of blame Anakin for what happened to Dara because of the lightsaber thing. Anakin knew that lightsaber needed fixed, and because that lightsaber wasn't fixed, he didn't fix it, Dara died, and that's what this last chapter gets into here. So where do you want to start here? Because this is where Anakin's kind of backed into a corner, and
he's waiting to see what's going to happen with Ferris, partially, I think, out of actual curiosity and concern. Ferris and the Council, I should say. But also because, some sense of schadenfreude that, Anakin enjoys seeing his rivals brought down a peg, which is not a very Jedi-like quality.
No. Should we just start at the beginning of the chapter and see where we go?
Yeah, or we could start on 143 where he sees True.
Okay.
So Anakin sees True, and yeah.
True, Anakin called out reluctantly. True edged in a few steps. Do you know anything?
True shook his head.
True.
He didn't quite meet Anakin's eyes.
I haven't seen much of you since we've been back, Anakin said.
I know.
I'm sorry about the censure.
Censure, yeah.
Censure.
I deserved it.
The question burned on Anakin's tongue. Why did you go to Ferris instead of me to fix your lightsaber? I would have done a better job.
I didn't go to Ferris, True said. He came to me. He had noticed that it was on half power at the end of the battle in the monastery. But I wouldn't have gone to you because I wouldn't have wanted to get you in trouble. You would have kept my secret, just like Ferris did. I was wrong not to tell my master. I was wrong to let Ferris stay silent. I was just about as wrong as I could be.
You were thinking of the mission, Anakin said.
We were all wrong, True continued, as if he hadn't even registered what Anakin had said.
We did our best, Anakin said, and Omega is dead.
So is Dara. True turned and walked out.
Anakin started after him. Something was wrong. Something had changed between him and his best friend, and he didn't know why. He stopped when the council doors opened. Ferris walked out. He almost walked by Anakin without seeing him, as if he was blinded by his feelings. Ferris!
Ferris turned. Anakin! Well, I think you should be the first to know. I have resigned from the Jedi Order.
What? Anakin felt shock ripple through him. But why?
Because I was responsible for Dara's death.
That's not true. You couldn't have known.
But I did. I knew that True's lightsaber had malfunctioned. I offered to fix it secretly, might I add. I did not tell his master or urge him to do so. His lightsaber failed in battle, and Dara was killed trying to protect me.
But you thought you fixed it.
Ferris stopped. He gazed at Anakin for a long moment. You knew? He asked. You knew True's lightsaber had broken? You must have seen me fixing it.
I didn't say that.
No, you didn't. But there are only two of us here, Anakin. You don't have to lie.
Anakin said nothing. As usual, Ferris was trying to trap him, trying to show Anakin how much nobler he was.
When we got back, I took it to the Jedi Master Tolan Hing, Ferris said, naming the Jedi who was known for his expertise in the workings of a lightsaber. He told me that the fusing between the flux aperture and the power cell needed a slight adjustment. Nothing major? Nothing major? True might never have noticed it, except that in battle, the power drained faster than normal.
This is a man who is, like, buried in his feelings. He just left the Jedi Order.
Yeah, listen. Yeah. It's true.
I don't know why you're telling me this.
True's voice came from behind him. Because you fixed the flux aperture, and you would have known that it needed to be rechecked after the power cell boost.
Anakin turned. You didn't come to me!
True shook his head. That's funny. Shouldn't you have said, but I didn't know it was broken?
You're trying to trap me, Anakin said. Both of you, he added, with an angry look at Ferris. True, I would have never done anything deliberately to put you in a position...
True's face hardened. His silver eyes held a sheen Anakin had never seen before. They were icy, as though Anakin could slip off his gaze. I wondered, True said. When we got back here, I wondered if you knew. I saw how you froze in the tomb. But not my friend, I said to myself. My friend would not do that. But then I thought about how you feel about Ferris, how angry you had been. You would want him to get in trouble, even if it meant exposing me.
That's not fair!
And suddenly I realized, yes, Anakin could have done that.
You're looking at it all wrong, Anakin said, but how could he explain? He couldn't admit that he knew True's lightsaber was broken, because he couldn't explain why he had forgotten to tell him to readjust it. He still didn't know how he had forgotten something so crucial. True would think that he had deliberately forgotten it. There was nothing he could say to convince him otherwise, because he knew himself didn't know.
I don't think so, True said. I think I'm truly seeing you for the first time.
Anakin swallowed. He didn't know what to say. This was an unfamiliar True, not his friend of childhood.
I'll see you outside, True said to Ferris, and walked out.
Do you see what you've done? Anakin said, turning savagely to Ferris.
Yes, I see what I've done, Ferris said. Do you? He shook his head. I'm afraid for you. You think admitting you were wrong opens you up to attack.
That's not true, Anakin countered. I think you should save your fears for yourself.
A spasm of pain crossed Ferris's face. Anakin could not imagine how awful it must feel to give up the Jedi Order. It would be like giving up everything he had lived for. If the Jedi ever need me, I will be there, Ferris said quietly. That includes you, Anakin.
Oh.
So
hard.
Keep reading? Well, there's a scene, we can skip ahead. He meets up with Obi-Wan quickly, let's just skip on 148, and we can read basically probably the rest of the book here. On 148,
we could start at this here. True looked back over his shoulder at Anakin, and then it hit him like a punch that knocked the air out of his lungs. True would never come around. He had lost his friend. Forever. Still standing, he watched Ferris and True walk away. He heard footsteps beside him, and Obi-Wan was next to him.
Anakin, I've been looking for you.
He turned automatically. Do you need me?
No, Anakin, is something wrong?
Ferris has resigned from the Jedi Order.
Obi-Wan let out a breath. I was afraid he would do something like that. He feels Dara's death so strongly. There was a lost look in Obi-Wan's eyes as he gazed down the empty hallway. The legacy of this mission is pain.
Anakin wanted to take away the remote look on his master's face, but he didn't want Obi-Wan to care so much about what happened to Ferris. The legacy of this mission is that a great enemy has been defeated. I saw you strike him down.
That is not an act that should be... that is not an act that should bring you satisfaction, my young Padawan, Obi-Wan said sternly. I took a life.
It was done as a last resort, to rid the galaxy of great evil. Therefore it was necessary and right.
Necessary, yes. But right? Obi-Wan shook his head. That is not a word to throw around lightly. We cannot say what is right. We can only do our best. Obi-Wan's gaze warmed. As you do, Padawan. You never give less than your best. I'm proud of the Jedi you have become.
Anakin was moved. His master so rarely spoke this way. Thank you, Master.
Obi-Wan gave him a long look. And I wanted to tell you, the Jedi Council has decided that they won't speed up the trials for Padawans. Your knighthood will have to wait a bit longer.
Anakin absorbed this news. So there was no chance, then, he would have to wait. It didn't matter what he did, how well he performed.
When the time is right, you'll take the trials, and I have no doubt that you will astonish us all. Until then, we will work together. There is so much left to do, and I'm grateful to have you by my side for a little longer. Obi-Wan paused. Anakin, are you all right?
He was all right, Anakin suddenly realized. The weakness in his knees he had felt when True walked away was gone. In a strange way, the mission had strengthened him. He had a stronger conviction now, a harder edge to fight with. Everything had fallen away from him, his childhood, his friends. He wished to impress the Jedi Council. He would never be so hopeless again. He would only grow stronger. He had fought with a Sith and seen true power. One day he would be able to match it. He would be able to fight it. Not yet, but someday soon. As a boy he had wanted things to change. He wanted to keep those he loved close to him forever. Yet everything did change. He was far from his mother. He had lost Dara, True, and Qui-Gon. He couldn't fight against those kinds of losses. So be it. He would have to push them down until they didn't matter anymore. One day he would face his worst loss, the loss of his master. By surpassing him, he would lose him. He pictured Obi-Wan turning to him in a slow surprise, gasping for the first time the true extent of his power, seeing that the student had outstripped the teacher. One day, Anakin's heart would break for the last time. He would feel the weight of impossible sorrow. He would not be able to bear the sorrow unless he no longer had a heart.
Oh, you know what I was thinking?
What?
And I'm sure that's what all our listeners are thinking. The incredible death of Obi-Wan Kenobi. This is great. That's how the book ends, by the way.
That's a great way to end the series.
And that's how the series ends. And, see, because the next time we pick up with the Jude narrative, obviously there's the Clone Wars books that we'll get to. That I imagine those take place in a bunch of different timelines and stuff. But the next series is Last of the Jedi, and that's after Order 66, and obviously it's good. And the main character of that series is Ferris.
Correct.
And that's a character that I think we've both struggled with to some degree throughout some of the series, because especially when I learned he was the main character, I was like, ooh. I don't know how interested I am in this character, but I'll say in this book I found him very compelling, and they set him up in a really interesting way. If he's left the Jedi Order, it's like Ahsoka at the end of Season 5 of Clone Wars. Spoiler for you, I guess. I don't know if you knew that.
I knew that. I knew. Yeah, I knew.
But yeah, so that's a really interesting place to put the character. So that actually excites me for Last of the Jedi more than I expected, because if that's how he survives Order 66, he's not with the Jedi. That's really interesting. But anyway, yeah.
And also, what's interesting here is this book kind of ends with Anakin kind of accepting. Anakin doesn't realize it, but Anakin is kind of accepting the dark side. He wants unlimited power, kind of thing. So and shortly after this, we have to assume that there is an assassination attempt on a very attractive senator.
Yeah, this happens probably right before that. So.
And this is what this is his mindset going into that whole thing. So suddenly, Padme's going to come back into his life,
and she's able to stave it off for another couple of years. But
yes, yeah, she calms him down a little bit.
This book, if you sense some mutedness to the reaction for this book versus last week, I don't mean that. I will say this: I joked about the beasties, but the relentless pace of this book I found really exciting. I thought it was. Mm-hmm. I enjoy it. It's pretty rare that one of these books is so kind of like they do the setup of the premise so quickly and then it just goes. Like it's not like, mm-hmm. and that's not a shot at Jude's other books. I love the more like political intrigue stuff, but this was pretty exciting all the way through. Give or take a beasties chapter, and I really liked where. I like where it leaves them. It's very uncertain going into Attack of the Clones, mm-hmm. and that's the right place to leave it. I want to save some
and think of the relationship between Obi-Wan and Anakin in Attack of the Clones. They're very buddy.
And
buddy.
Like the last moment there is like Obi-Wan is kind of willfully ignoring the warning signs. Here, like because mm-hmm. him and Anakin have become genuinely close, and what I like about Jedi, we'll talk about this more next week. I don't want to get too into it, but their arc together as their relationships arc throughout the series is one of the biggest strong points of the series, and we'll mm-hmm. talk about that next week. But in this book, though, I did enjoy it. I found it very exciting. I'll say two characters specifically. Dara was not a character that had been well established enough for her death to hit the way that a lot of those Jude deaths do. Even the character from last week, the Senate aide that died, I'm blanking mm-hmm. on his name. Tyro. Like that character hadn't been around that much, but I found that death a lot more affecting than Dara's mm-hmm. death here. Because she hadn't been around in a long time. Isn't she like in the first book, and that might be it, like in Way of the Apprentice,
something like that? Yeah, because
I haven't looked it up.
Haradin is where she gets injured.
Yeah,
and that's like I feel like that she's been mentioned before. I know that, but like she hasn't really done a whole lot else. And this book tries to like give her a little bit of character because they mention like, oh, she was always known for a sense of humor, and then Haradin happened, and then her sense of humor turned grim. Like she was always like willing to accept. She had that brush with mortality, and she was willing to accept mortality. And then for her to just kind of get killed in this book too, like they were just trying to like, oh. She was okay with it, kind of thing, like she had come to terms with that. But it's still not enough time to build the character. Had True died, maybe that would have been a little bit stronger. I feel like. Yeah, I agree. I do like the scene with True where he kind of like turns his back on Anakin that we read. But that's the other issue is that True I felt like should have been a stronger presence throughout the whole series, and we can talk about that mm-hmm. more next week. With whatever some of our structural problems with the whole series might be, but the book makes up for it. But I think finally, really like making Ferris make sense as a character and his contrast, like as a foil to Anakin. I think he finally felt complete as a character to me in this book, and. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, where it leaves you with a really uneasy feeling, which is the right vibe. And I thought it was very strong. I can't go quite conceive the midi-chlorians. I thought the false piece is just, like, out and out better. Mm-hmm. So, but I thought this was really exciting. And the last couple chapters after the end of the mission, basically Grant Omega's death scene on... I thought it's some of the best stuff in the whole series. So I'm gonna go full 10. I just can't go conceived. So I'm giving it a 10. Okay. My thing is going into this book. It's the final showdown, and this you think this book is going to be about Omega, but this book is really about Anakin and Ferris, which is the better choice for this. Omega is just Omega is the drive for the whole mission, and Omega is really what comes in between Anakin and Ferris here. In a way, Omega wins. Omega accomplished everything that he wanted to do. He got the attention of the Sith Lord. He was given the power. The only thing he didn't get to do was avenge his father.
Avenge me!
But in a way,
Spider-Man.
he also That's good. I like that.
Willem, my king.
Kill Spider-Man.
The itsy bitsy spider ran up the water spout.
Kill Obi-Wan. Avenge me.
Finish it!
But he also got into Anakin's head. You know, and this whole drive to stop Omega, it means that Anakin, and he was so intrigued by Anakin that Omega kind of succeeded in turning Anakin a little bit, you know, and so that's, I think, is very interesting, and the way that this whole arc kind of concludes. Omega's death is very, very interesting. The fact that he knows who the Sith Lord is very good.
Do you think he knows who Sheev is, or do you think he knows who Dooku is and knows his relationship with Obi-Wan?
See, it's hard to tell. It's very hard to tell there, because it's always interesting to know what the apprentice knows there. And the only clue we get is somebody gets hit by Force lightning by the Sith Lord. That could have been either of them. So I would feel in my heart it's Dooku, because it doesn't seem like Sheev would make that risk.
In the Clone Wars books that we're getting to soon, there's a big Dooku part of those, right. So that might lead into that.
And Jude, and that's, I mean, Dooku's Qui-Gon's master, right. So maybe we'll get some wild flashback.
I hope it looks like there's 4 narratives in one of them. I'm excited.
So I'm going to go, I think this book has one too many battles, droid battles, beasties battles, Commerce battles. Guild battles, zombie battles. So for that, I'm going to give it a 9.
That's fair enough. But this is exciting. We're going to talk big picture Jedi Quest stuff next week. I was trying to hold back on some of my thoughts. Some of them you got a preview of here this week. So we're going to do some lists. We're going to talk kind of the arc as on a whole, where Jude's at this point in her macro arc that we're going to be heading into the Clone Wars books and into Last of the Jedi. So very, very exciting stuff. But in the meantime, between now and next week, you can check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Padawan Library.
Ooh. Before I forget, we're reading one of the Jude shorts next week. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
I gotta send it to you.
Okay.
That short is, I'll post out a link on Twitter and stuff. Let me find the notes here. Okay, so that short story is going to be Stormfleet Warning, and this story can be found if you look up the Wikipedia page for this. At the bottom of the page in the external links, you can find a PDF of this story. So that's where that story can be found. I'll be sure to send it to you and post it out on the social medias.
We'll be discussing that next week also, so check that out. You can find a link on social media at Padawan Library, all the platforms. Subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, rate us 5 stars only. You can leave a review, that'd be nice. We're also on Stitcher and Spotify if you want to check us out there. Our t-shirt, Until the Books Are Due Back. I'll make sure I remember to put the link in the description this time. I didn't on last week's episode, but you can find it. It's on TeePublic. Just search Padawan Library, you'll find it. So, that's it, right? That's all we got.
Yep. Until the books are due back.
The library's closed. Padawan Library is hosted and produced by Tim May and Levi Peretic. It is edited by Tim May. Our theme song is by The Astral Project. Our artwork is by Freddie Funbuns. Copyright 2020, Tim May and Levi Peretic, all rights reserved.